Victoria Langford, the celebrated founder, CEO of Celesta Biotech, believed her glass-walled headquarters in Canary Wharf was the epicenter of modern genius. Each morning, the 42-year-old strode through the atrium beneath a 14-meter kinetic sculpture, accepting reverent nods from staff who understood that one misstep could end a career. For a decade, Victoria had cultivated a reputation for brilliance wrapped in ice. Markets obeyed her, journalists feared her reposts, and employees spoke of her 3-meter rule: never approach unless summoned. She insisted it kept her focused on the life-saving therapies Celesta was developing. Insiders whispered it masked a deeper disdain. That winter Thursday, as gray light seeped across the Thames, a visitor stepped through Celesta's revolving doors, and the marble lobby seemed to tilt on its axis. Marcus Williams, 6'4" and impeccably dressed in an understated charcoal suit, paused to scan the space with eyes the color of espresso. The receptionists swapped puzzled glances. They saw a black man they could not place, carrying no obvious briefcase or laptop, only a slim leather folio and a phone he barely glanced at. "Deliveries go to the loading bay, sir," one receptionist ventured, giving him a badge marked temp. Marcus's smile was polite, unreadable. "I have a 9:30 with Miss Langford. Please let her know Marcus Williams is here on behalf of Meridian Global Partners." The words landed like a stone in a pond. Meridian? The sovereign wealth-backed investment house, with nearly $100 billion under management? The receptionist's cheeks flushed. She motioned toward the visitor chairs, but not toward the sun-washed VP lounge, where venture capital titans usually waited on Victoria. "That corner will be fine," Marcus said, taking the seat without complaint. For 20 minutes, he observed the flow of employees, noting who greeted security, who held doors, who ignored the cleaners. His expression never changed, but each small act lodged in memory like a data point in a vast hidden spreadsheet. At 9:52 a.m., an assistant in Louboutin heels finally approached, breathless. "Mr. Williams? I'm Amelia. Ms. Langford can spare you 10 minutes before her earnings prep." She did not look apologetic. She looked inconvenienced, as though Marcus had sprung from nowhere. They took the lift to level 31, but Amelia led him not into the executive boardroom overlooking the Docklands skyline, rather into a narrow side suite used for graduate assessment days. Beige walls, plastic water jugs, chairs that squeaked. Marcus thanked her and waited, hands folded. The door burst open at 7 minutes after 10. Victoria Langford swept in wearing a dove-white sheath dress and the faintest scent of bergamot. 2 directors trailed after her. She halted, eyed Marcus, and offered a smile honed on cover shoots. "Good morning," he said, rising. He extended his hand across the small table. "Thank you for seeing me." Victoria's gaze drifted to his open palm as though it were harboring germs. She chuckled, a crystalline tinkling that never reached her eyes. "I'm terribly obsessive about hygiene," she said. "I avoid handshakes with staff. I'm sure you understand." In that instant, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. One director tried to suppress a wince, the other smirked. Marcus allowed his hand to fall. "Of course," he replied evenly. "But I'm not on your staff." Victoria's eyebrow arched. "Really? Then remind me, Marcus, what exactly do you do for Meridian?" "Logistics. I chair the investment committee." The silence that followed seemed to swallow all background hum. Marcus's voice had carried no boast, no threat. It was simply fact, yet it detonated every assumption in the room. Victoria recovered first, flicking an invisible speck from her sleeve. "Charming. Well, shall we dash through the deck? I've summarized Celesta's pipeline in 5 slides." She motioned to a junior analyst who fumbled with a battered projector. The slides outlined revenue projections, but Marcus noticed whole categories of R&D expense missing. He asked why preclinical oncology spending had dropped 18%, while Victoria was touting accelerated regulatory timelines. She waved it off. "Accounting classifications. You wouldn't believe how bureaucratic HMRC can be." When he inquired which generative AI model Celesta used to refine its protein folding predictions, she breezed. "That's rather in the weeds for this audience." Audience, Marcus thought. Interesting choice of word. He closed his folio. "Thank you. I've heard enough." Victoria beamed, assuming she'd dazzled him. "Lovely. My assistant will show you out. I imagine Meridian has boxes to tick." Marcus rose, offered a slight bow instead of a handshake, and left the room without another word. As the lift door slid shut, he sent a single encrypted text to Meridian's chief risk officer in Zurich. "Initiate." On trading floors across Europe, algorithms watched for that code word. Within minutes, discrete sell orders rippled through the FTSE and etc., targeting Celesta Biotech. The effect at first was subtle, a percentage point, then 3, then 5. But biotech funds keyed to momentum noticed, and the slide accelerated. Marcus re-entered the lobby at 11:12 a.m. The receptionist who'd given him the temp badge looked up, startled, as two portfolio managers in Burberry coats bolted past her, phones glued to ears. Television screens above the espresso bar flashed a red headline. Celesta Biotech down 8% on heavy volume. Marcus strolled out to the river terrace and watched low clouds drifting over Greenwich. 30 floors above, Victoria's executive assistant dashed into the real boardroom where the CEO was rehearsing talking points for an afternoon CNBC hit. Markets tanking. We're down 10% on no news, the assistant squeaked. Victoria stiffened. Check Twitter, check the forums. Find a rumor. This is a short attack. Even as she spoke, her phone vibrated with a call from Celesta's largest institutional shareholder, Cedar Rock Asset Management. She declined it. Pride insisted she appear unfazed. But a second alert followed. Meridian Global Partners divests entire Celesta stake. Amount, $380 million. Victoria nearly dropped the handset. Meridian? The mere possibility that the courteous black man she'd refused to touch could command such capital struck her with all the force of an ice-cold wave. She motioned her directors closer. Tell compliance to halt any insider chatter. Amelia, find Mr. Williams. Too late. Marcus had vanished into the city. By 1:00 p.m. Bloomberg anchors were dissecting a leaked memo claiming Celesta fostered a culture of elitism and racial bias. No one knew the source. By 2:30, an anonymous audio recording surfaced on Reddit. Victoria, laughing about keeping distance from junior staff, it keeps the riffraff at bay. Users spliced the clip beside a chart of Celesta's tumbling stock. It went viral before tea time. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. The board convened an emergency session at 4:00. Victoria tried to command the room, but Cedar Rock's emissary, a silver-haired Scotswoman named Helen McRae, spoke first. I warned you months ago that perception matters. Now we have proof of hostile attitudes plus a vanishing investor. Unless you restore confidence fast, Celesta may breach its credit covenants by next week. Victoria's self-possession cracked. He ambushed me. Played the race card. Across the table, COO Philip Graves glowered. He asked for a handshake, Victoria. You gave him humiliation. The chair tapped his gavel. Enough. We must talk to Marcus Williams and salvage Meridian's money. That evening, a formal request for dialogue reached Meridian's London office. Marcus instructed his chief of staff to schedule Victoria at 7:45 a.m., not a minute later, at Meridian's St. James's Square townhouse. Victoria arrived dressed in black, but the security guard gave her a guest pass coded Temp02. She felt the subtle sting. Marcus greeted her in a salon lined with 18th-century maps. Two Meridian partners flanked him like quiet sentinels. He gestured to a chair. No handshake was offered, none requested. Mr. Williams, Victoria began. Celesta values Meridian deeply. We have clearly had a misunderstanding. He raised a hand. Let's be precise. You don't value people you misjudge on sight. Yesterday you said you wouldn't touch a subordinate. For the record, Meridian seldom subordinates 5 billion euros to anyone. Victoria's jaw tightened. Your withdrawal has wiped over $1 billion in shareholder value. Patients need our therapies. That is exactly why Meridian entered due diligence, Marcus said. But Celesta's culture endangers execution. Markets can forgive bad results. They punish arrogance. He opened his folio, revealing a single sheet. Here are Meridian's conditions to resume funding. Victoria scanned the page and felt faint. It demanded immediate publication of Celesta's pay bans, a forced rewrite of hiring policy overseen by an external auditor appointed by Meridian, quarterly town hall questions and answers live-streamed internally, and, most galling, her own transition to non-executive co-founder within 6 months, replaced by an interim CEO to be approved by Meridian and the board. This is a coup, she spat. It's accountability, Marcus replied, voice soft. Accept or decline. Markets open in 40 minutes. She pictured tomorrow's headlines if she refused, and the stock plunged another 20%. Hedge funds circling, employees updating C versus. Celesta's tower could empty overnight. She whispered, give me an hour. You have 20 minutes. Victoria stepped into the corridor, phoned the board chair, and outlined the terms. Voices rose, blame darted like knives. But pragmatism triumphed. At 8:11 a.m., she re-entered the salon, eyes rimmed red, and signed. Marcus countersigned without triumph. We'll announce jointly at noon. But twists rarely end so neatly. At 10:43 a.m., While lawyers crafted a press release, an investigative journalist at the Financial Times published screenshots leaked by a former Celesta data scientist, emails in which Victoria dismissed concerns about racial bias in training data for an AI trial. The timing seemed choreographed. Shares, which had clawed back 3% on rumors of a deal, dropped another 7%. Victoria accused Marcus of leaking. He denied it. Truthfully, the whistleblower had acted alone after seeing social media chatter. By lunchtime, regulators from the Equality and Human Rights Commission requested meetings. Meridian lawyers insisted the governance overhaul accelerate to 48 hours, not 6 months. The board capitulated. Victoria delivered a tearful video to employees admitting leadership blind spots. Few bought it. The new interim CEO, Dr. Rosalind Ogawa, a Japanese-British immunologist beloved by lab teams, assumed office Monday morning. Her first act was to dismantle the 3-meter rule, hosting coffee sessions with janitors and research chiefs alike. The gesture flooded LinkedIn with selfies tagged #CloseTheDistance. Celesta's narrative flickered from scandal to renaissance. Analysts began to speculate the company, under humbler leadership and with Meridian's fresh capital, might thrive after all. Victoria retreated to her Knightsbridge townhouse, nursing outrage. But exile offered reflection. She watched Rose Ogawa credit her publicly for scientific vision despite managerial missteps. Grace felt foreign. It disarmed her anger. Weeks later, Victoria penned an op-ed for The Guardian urging founders to surrender ego sooner. She sent Marcus a copy with a handwritten note. "You were right that day. I was afraid of contamination, but it was my own." Meridian released the first €1 billion tranche once Celesta published salary data, showing pay disparities halved in 1 quarter. The market responded. Shares up 26% from nadir, still shy of pre-crisis highs, but trending positively. More important, employees reported in anonymous surveys that trust in leadership had doubled. On a drizzly April evening, 3 months after that fateful non-handshake, Marcus accepted an invite to Celesta's refurbished canteen. It now displayed photos of every employee on a Voices of Innovation wall. Rosalind introduced him to junior lab techs who called him Mr. Williams, the man who saved our funding, with a text. Marcus corrected them. "I only redirected power already present. Cultures either amplify talent or strangle it." As he left, he noticed a shy intern extending a tentative hand. Marcus clasped it firmly. The circle had closed. Across town, Victoria addressed a panel on leadership lessons through crisis. Someone in the audience asked what she would do differently. She inhaled. "I'd start by shaking every hand," she said. "Not because custom demands it, but because you never know whose hand holds your future." The room fell silent, then erupted in applause. In the back row, a tall black investor slipped out before she could spot him. His train to Heathrow was leaving, and somewhere beyond the Atlantic another boardroom waited. Another culture to scrutinize, another handshake that might change everything.